We must now find out how fast this car goes around the track, which means we have to hand it over to our tame racing driver. Some say he never blinks and that he roams around the woods at night foraging for wolves. Some say he's wanted by the CIA and that he sleeps upside down like a bat. Some say that he appears on high-value stamps in Sweden and that he can catch fish with his tongue. Some say he is illegal in 17 US states and he blinks this way. Some say that his breath smells of magnesium and that he's scared of bells. Some say he naturally faces magnetic north and that all his legs are hydraulic. Some say that he lives in a tree and that his sweat can be used to clean precious metals. Some say that his heart ticks like a watch and that he's confused by stairs. Some say that his voice can only be heard by cats and that he has 2 sets of knees. Some say that he's terrified of ducks and that there's an airport in Russia named after him.
Some say his skin has the texture of a dolphin's and that wherever you are in the world, if you tune your radio to 88.4, you can actually hear his thoughts.
Some say that he has no understanding of clouds and that his earwax tastes like Turkish delight. Some say that his politics are terrifying and that he once punched a horse to the ground. Some say that his tears are adhesive and that if he caught fire, he'd burn for 1,000 days.
Some say he can swim 7 lengths underwater and he has webbed buttocks.
Some say that his heart is in upside down and that his teeth glow in the dark. Some say that his ears aren't exactly where you'd expect them to be and that once, preposterously, he had an affair with John Prescott. Some say he has a digital face and that if he felt like it, he could fire Alan Sugar. Some say that his genitals are on upside down and that if he could be bothered, he could crack the Da Vinci Code in 43 seconds.
Some say his ears have a paisley lining and he's been banned from the Chelsea Flower Show.
Some say that the outline of his left nipple is exactly the same shape as the Nürburgring. And that if you give him a really important job to do, he'll skive off and play croquet. Some say he invented Branston Pickle. And that if you insult his mother, he will headbutt you in the chest. Some say that on really warm days, he sheds his skin like a snake. And that for some reason, he's allergic to the Dutch.
Some say that his first name really is The, and that if he went on Celebrity Love Island, they'd all be pregnant, including the cameramen.
Some say he once threw a microwave oven at a tramp. And that long before anyone else, he realised that Jade Goody was a racist, pig-faced waste of blood and organs. Some say that he once had a vicious knife fight with Anthea Turner. And that he is in no way implicated in the Cash for Honour scandal. Some say that if you lick his chest, it tastes exactly the same as Piccalilli. And that at this week's Brit Awards, he was arrested for goosing Russell Brand. Some say that he sucks the moisture from ducks. And that his crash helmet is modelled on Britney Spears' head.
Some say he isn't machine washable and all his potted plants are called Steve.
Some say that his scrotum has its own small gravity field. And that because our producer rigged a phone vote, he now has a new name. Some say that he's banned from the town of Chichester. And that in a recent late-night deal, he bought a slightly dented white Fiat Uno from the Duke of Edinburgh. Some say that he gets terrible eczema on his helmet. And that if he'd been the video ref in the World Cup rugby final, he would have seen that, of course, it was a try, you blind Australian half-wit. Some say that to unlock him, you have to run your finger down his face. Like that. And that if he were getting divorced from Paul McCartney, he'd keep his stupid, whining mouth shut. Some say that he thought Star Wars was a documentary. And that he recently pulled out of I'm a Celebrity because he's frightened of trees. And Australia. And Q Stark. And Beck. Some say that he knows 2 facts about ducks, and both of them are wrong. And that 61 years ago, he accidentally introduced Her Majesty the Queen to a Greek racialist. Some say that when he slows down, brake lights come on in his buttocks. And that if he'd been the manager of the England football squad last week, he wouldn't have been a feckless, ginger gum-chewing buffoon who ruined it for all of us. Some say that he once lost a canoe on a beach in the northeast. And that he once did some time in a prison in Canterbury because his teddy is called the Baby Jesus. Some say that as we speak, he is actually relaxing in the resort's pool. And he is actually. He is. Some say that after making love, he bites the head off his partner. And that he's had to give up binge drinking now that it's got to £1.18 a litre. Some say that each of his toenails are exactly the same as a woman's nipples. And that he thinks the Credit Crunch is some kind of breakfast cereal. Some say his droppings have been found as far north as York. And that he has a full-size tattoo of his face on his face. Some say that he isn't allowed by law within 100 yards of Lorraine Kelly. And that he's never seen an episode of Top Gear because he's a huge fan of Midsummer Murders.
Some say it's impossible for him to wear socks. And he can open a beer bottle with his testes.
Some say that he sleeps inside out. And that he once had full sex with Russell Brand's answering machine. Some say that he invented November. And that if he'd won the World Championship in Brazil last weekend, there might have been one photograph of him without his father gurning in the back of shot. Some say he has no understanding of queuing. Some say that one of his eyes is a testy. And that he was turned down for I'm a Celebrity because people have heard of him.
Some say one of his legs gets longer when he sees a pretty lady. And that I haven't done one of these for some time and I've forgotten to make up a second thing.
Some say that he doesn't like to get his helmet wet. A point that was proved last week when he was caught in the back of shot by an eagle-eyed viewer. Some say that he invented the curtain. And that he recently submitted a £20,000 expenses claim for some gravel for his moat. Some say that last week he was found in a locked room tied to a chair with German piano wire. And that this week MPs turned him down for the job of Speaker. Some say that he thinks crisps are animals. And that if he'd done well at Wimbledon, once in a while, he might have been able to raise a smile. Some say that he is absolutely baffled by urinals. And that on reflection, this was a bad week to launch his debut single. It's a tribute to Farrah Fawcett. Some say he has 12 GCSEs, all in domestic science. And that he's been producing artificial sperm for years, even though we have repeatedly asked him not to. Some say that on Thursdays he becomes incredibly bulbous. And that recently pigs in Mexico have started to die of something called stig flu. Some say that he cut that man's hair. And that if he compensated a soldier for getting wounded, he wouldn't try to take it all back again. Some say that in the autumn, all his arms go brown and fall off. And that if he wrote you a letter of condolence, he would at least get your name right. Some say that he has some terrible plans involving the moon. And that he was turned down for a place on I'm a Celebrity because he is one. Some say that his new Christmas range of fragrances includes the great smell of Wednesday. And that he was turned down for the job of EU president because his face is just too recognisable. Some say that the drinks cabinet in his car contains 14 different types of custard. And that while he has been known to leave his house in a bit of a hurry, he's never once hit a fire hydrant. Some say that you shouldn't go round to his house for your Christmas lunch unless you enjoy the great taste of seagull. And that the reason he always wears a helmet is because a man once smashed him in the face with a model of Salisbury Cathedral. Some say that he has to take his shoes off with an Allen key. And that his New Year's resolution is to eat fewer mice. Some say that his discharge is luminous. And that even as we speak, he is appearing on the main stage at Glastonbury, performing his most famous hit, Superstition. Some say there are 17 different reasons why he's banned from the Northampton branch of Little Chef. And that his favourite airline pilot is Mark Webber. Some say that if you hold him in the wrong way, he doesn't work properly. And that just very recently, he developed an irrational hatred of Rubens Barrichello. Some say that he spent all week daydreaming about what Rubens Barrichello would look like in a ham slicer. And that he's terrified the BBC will reveal his salary because he's paid in strong pornography. Some say the Scottish released him a little bit too soon. And that he spent all week pushing an effigy of Rubens Barrichello through his desk fan. Some say that he's recently been releasing pop records under the pseudonym of Lady Gaga. And that under his race suit, he also wears a red G-string and suspenders. Some say that he doesn't understand the word envelope. And that he is the only woman in Britain not to have slept with Alan Johnson's policeman. Some say he once tore a goat in half. And that he is now regretting buying his new holiday home in downtown Cairo. Some say his nipples are explosive. And that he's recently had a Mexican... I mean Brazilian! Why did I say that? I'm sorry, Mr. Ambassador. Some say that in his wallet, he keeps a photograph of his wallet. And that in a recent race, even he was beaten by the King's speech. Some say that his favourite disease he had when he was a child was gout. And that he was very surprised this week when he was able to pick up some remarkably cheap tickets for the Bahrain Grand Prix. Some say he doesn't know what dogs are for, and that he recently took out a super injunction to prevent us from revealing that he... with an enormous goat. Some say that he can't eat mashed potato for religious reasons. And that he recently received 47,000 tickets, Olympic tickets, all of them for the final of the women's wrestling. Some say that he refuses to acknowledge the existence of Nottinghamshire. And that he recently received a very strong email from his fiancée's mother saying it's bad manners to sit at the dinner table in a helmet. Some say that he once hacked into his own helmet. And that he thinks Harper 7 is a convicted terrorist cell. Some say that his favourite T-shirt has a picture on the front of a T-shirt. And that he's spent all week waiting for a big cheque from the Germans because he too has spent the last 2,000 years sitting on his backside doing absolutely nothing at all. Some say that he's the only man in Britain who knows what B and Q stands for. And that he can't give his £1 million bonus back because he's already spent it on French breast implants. Some say that he has 50,000 photographs of his own camera. And that 60 years ago this week, he too became a queen. Some say that he is the only man in history to buy a DFS sofa when there wasn't a sale on. And that his favourite boxing venue is Munich Airport. Some say that he stores all of his shoes and his cassette tapes on the Motorway Central reservation. And that since he can easily stay quiet for 2 hours, he's wondering why he didn't win an Oscar. Some say that we have at least thought of a new way of introducing him, but we haven't. Some say that following the vote on gay marriage, he's got engaged to James May, his lawnmower. And that he's become convinced this week that Henry IV is buried under the follow-through. Some say he contains 47% horse. And that to concentrate more on his work here, he has resigned this week from his other job in Rome. Some say he has the world's largest collection of horse eggs. And that when he knocked Rafa Nadal out this week, it wasn't during a game of tennis. Some say that he breaks into people's houses at night and leaves 2 mysterious extra keys in a kitchen drawer. And that, as a result of buying Pirelli condoms this week, he now has 17 children. Some say that he also has a button that makes him hum. And that if he played football for Manchester United, he'd be loyal, because he's not a potato-headed oaf. Some say he's married to one of Princess Anne's hats. And that he spent all week standing outside a hospital in London pretending to be Nicholas Witchell. Some say that this week he's wearing 2 layers of Nomex. And that on a recent trip to Cornwall, he stopped off for one of his special big wheeze in Somerset. Some say that he once put Helen Mirren in a dishwasher. And that at the Winter Olympics, he was disqualified from the skeleton event for riding down the hill on an actual skeleton. Some say that his hair is the exact same shape as a hat. And that if he worked for CNN, he wouldn't get such pitifully low ratings that his show got cancelled. Some say that his favourite football formation is 8-8-19. And that while we were off air, his iCloud was hacked and now everyone in the world has seen his helmet. Some say that last week he won a BAFTA for Best Original Smell. And that when he dies, he thinks he'll go to Devon. Some say that his favourite flower is the potato. And that even though he's now seen 50 Shades of Grey, he still thinks BDSM is a driving school. Some say that he wishes there was someone he could talk to about his missold PPI. And that he spent all week making a stair lift for Madonna. All we know is he's called the Sting! And sadly, we will no longer be back on that bombshell. It is time to end. Thank you so much for watching. We're off now to get very drunk. Goodbye!